Yo, what is going on, everybody? I am back with another book breakdown, Luke's book breakdown. Today we got a very special book. We have a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, however you want to pronounce it. A very famous book, Empire of the Summer Moon by S.C. Gwynne, and it is Quanah Parker and the Rise and Fall of the Comanches, the most powerful Indian tribe in American history. That is Quanah Parker himself in the flesh. And Empire of the Summer Moon. Awesome book. I actually read this book this summer. I was driving across the country and I was in Oklahoma, in the land the Comanches owned and ruled for quite a while. Oklahoma, Texas, Colorado, Kansas area, and I actually drove from Oklahoma City up to southeastern Colorado. So I drove through Oklahoma and then Kansas and then Colorado, actually right where the Comanches would have been roaming. So that's why I started that book, and that's why I brought it along with me. And yeah, I'm gonna make this kind of a short, brief book breakdown. This is kind of like a long, let me see how many pages. I think this is like a 400, 300 something page book. Quite a large one. Yep, right around 320 pages, and filled with really good information, and just a phenomenal book. And let's get right into it. First off, if you guys enjoy this video, please smash that like button, subscribe, check out any of my other videos. I'm going to be working on some short kind of films, short documentaries, also some full documentaries. The trip that I talked about when I read this, driving across the country, is going to be a full length documentary film, so stay tuned for that. I'm working on that. I'm going to try to put that out to film festivals and stuff like that, so stay tuned. Help support your boy. It's going to be free on YouTube. It's going to be a free film, so stay tuned for that, so subscribe. And I'm going to be traveling around this whole winter, snowboarding and traveling and posting all different vlogs and working on my cinematic car camping and stuff like that. You guys are really going to like my channel, so check that out. But yeah, talking about Empire of the Summer Moon and the Comanche Indians. And the Comanche Indians were some savages. They were some savages. It was in about the 1600s, 1700s, and then they fell and kind of lost their power towards the end of the 1800s, when America was really becoming kind of like, even back then, they were becoming a pretty big, powerful country, and we started purchasing and owning and moving out west. We started moving out west and taking a lot of these Plains Indians' lands and putting them on reservations in the late 1800s. And very sad reality of Americans' history, but that is the reality. And this book also shows other realities, like the Indians were savages as well, and they were raiding homes and raping and pillaging and taking and kidnapping and torturing our own people and our kids and stuff like that. So it was like, it's a very controversial thing, so it's complicated. It's a complicated subject. This exact story is about a lot of things, but it kind of follows the storyline of this young girl named Cynthia Ann Parker, who was captured in Texas, and she was young, and she watched her family basically get murdered, and I think her sister or brother or cousin got kidnapped with her, because a lot of the Plains Indians, when they would attack, or what they would call raid, they would raid villages or houses, or they kind of like people would have big homes and big farms, and like a big family would stay there. So it's not a community, but it's like kind of like a big house with like a lot of, like, maybe like a whole, like a full family worth, like brothers and sisters and uncles and stuff. So they would go in there and take all the young, they would kill everybody, you know, rape the women in front of everybody, and then torture them and kill them and then scalp them. But the young children, if they were young enough, they would keep them, and actually sounds like they would treat them pretty well, and would turn them into a Comanche warrior, because the Comanche numbers were always kind of low compared to some native tribes, because they're such savages. They were always fighting. They were always they were always traveling. They were very nomadic, so the women had a hard time giving birth and having and giving labor and holding, and I guess giving birth to a full-born child, and also spending 9 months without the child, without having a miscarriage and stuff, on horseback for that long. It's very crazy what goes into it. It's really crazy. So they needed to keep their numbers up, so they would steal other Native American tribes, and they would steal Americans. So that being said, That being said, this young girl, Cynthia Ann Parker, got kidnapped by the Comanches, and she was young. And the story kind of goes that, throughout time, the white people kept moving out west and start settling more and more out west. Texas became this huge, kind of poppin' state, and multiple cities were kind of getting pretty big. Oklahoma was still kind of like deserted. I mean, Oklahoma right now is still kind of deserted. But back then it was literally no white people out there, to be honest with you. And if there were, they would kind of get killed and they would get picked out by the Indians. So this young lady, Cynthia Ann Parker, I believe her house, the Parker Fort Stronghold, was on the border of like Oklahoma, Texas area. I believe that's where it was. And basically Indians pulled up on them, kidnapped her, and long story short, her family and other white people heard about this, and a lot of people were getting kidnapped. So the communities would try to set up, search parties, and every like 5-10 years even they would go out and like kind of search for them and remember a story. And certain people came into power and be like, okay, we're gonna try to search for these people and blah 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 blah. So eventually they found Cynthia Ann Parker, but the problem was she was a full-grown woman. I think she was spotted once before, but when she was finally kidnapped back by the white people and taken into the white community and the American culture at that time. She didn't speak any English. She only spoke the native Comanche language. So this is Cynthia Ann. These are guys, I believe, that fought against the Comanches. There were some savages too. See what the Comanches look like. And she had children. She had children, and they were Native Americans. They were Native American people. They were Comanches. And one of her children was Quanah Parker, and he was the last chief and last, great commander of the Comanche tribe. And he's one of the most, famous historical chiefs in all of Native American tribes. And it kind of goes into the story of how Quanah Parker was actually a half-blood. He wasn't a full Comanche because his mother was captured, and at the time, she was an American. She was settling out west, and she got kidnapped and was captured, I guess, taken into the Comanche tribe and became a Comanche woman. And she would clean the hides. They would do everything that a woman in the Comanche tribes would do. And eventually she married one of the Comanche chiefs. I forget his name, Petanocona, or one of those chiefs. She gave birth to a few children, and I think some of her children died in combat. I think, could be wrong. But then Quanah Parker was the last chief. He was the last chief as his people, his native Comanche tribes. They were all getting put on reservations. The Arapahos, Kickapoos, the Kiowas, they were all getting put on reservations. And eventually, Quanah Parker was still riding around, attacking, raiding people. And it took about, it sounds like 10 to 15 to 20, 25 years for them finally to all sign treaties and all to move on reservations. And he eventually had a big house in Oklahoma. Quanah and this house. Yeah, it was just a really great story. But it also goes into the realistic, the brutality of Native Americans, how brutal they were, and also the brutal warfare that Americans would, like crazy Americans, would join the army trying to go kill red people. They wanted to kill Native Americans. It was right around the time of the Civil War too, when they were really at war with the Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers is a baseball team now, but now they might get canceled. But they were originally formed to fight off, I believe, Mexican citizens, Mexican Indians that were in the Mexican border, and Indians that were in Texas and on the plains. And that was why the Texas Rangers were formed. It was like a police force. But yeah, it was just really crazy, interesting facts. I totally recommend Empire of the Summer Moon by S.C. Gwynne. Again, finalist for the Pulitzer or Pulitzer Prize, however you want to pronounce it. Really high quality award right there. New York Times bestseller. But yeah, if you guys really enjoyed this book, if you guys read this before, if you guys recommend this or want to see anything else, smash that like button, subscribe, drop a comment. What do you recommend? What did you like about this book? There's just so much stuff, and also how good of horseback riders the Comanches were. They were arguably the best horseback riding cavalry in world history. The Mongols were filthy on horsebacks. There were a couple other, ancient, tribes and armies that were phenomenal fighting on horseback. But the way the Comanches would use the horse they would hide underneath the horse and then shoot arrows under the neck, and they wouldn't even get hit. And if they did get hit, it would just hit the horse. But everybody, hope you guys enjoyed. Please smash that like button, subscribe for more videos. Read the book, Empire of the Summer Moon. More book breakdown videos coming, so stay tuned. Like I said, short films, documentaries, check out the podcast, link in the description. Check out the Instagram, link in the description. Smash the like button. Deuces.